Now to our first conversation. We see Nigeria's 2025 budget present a critical juncture for the nation with ambitious goals of economic growth, debt management, and improved social welfare. Well, the government is facing a complex set of challenges at this point with high inflation rate and weakening currency. But let's talk more now to Dr. Tope Fasua, Economic Affairs Advisor, that's to the President. It's great to have you on the show. Good afternoon. Compliments of the season.
Good afternoon, Ladi. It's good to be here. Compliments of the season.
Great to have you. So, before we get into the budget now, I'd like to get your view, an assessment of, economic policies so far in 2024. Would you say we've made some, good strides?
Right. Well, the 2024 should be considered as the year of the subsidy. Of the reforms, rather. We have the fuel subsidy removal. We have the reforms on the Naira. We have the reforms, indeed, on monetary policy with regards to the ways and means treatment. And now we have the tax reforms, which are still on the table, So a lot has happened this year, and I believe that 2025 will begin to consolidate on the gains of these reforms. For example, I heard you say that Dangote has reduced the price of its fuel to about 8.99 naira. I've seen that in the newspapers as well today. And you see that the reforms around the fuel subsidy removal is what actually spurred the market, as painful as it is in terms of the increase in the price of fuel. But that itself created a reform of the entire industry, such that we're no longer talking about Nigeria being an entirely import-dependent country regarding fuel, especially premium motor spirits, petrol, and even things like jet fuel, which the airline uses, and so on. Now we're a net exporter already. So you can imagine that whereas there's still hiccups here and there, by the time the industry stabilizes, we're going to be exporting for dollar. So the Dangote industry is there, the refinery. Equally, we have the Port Harcourt refinery coming on board. We have quite a few other modular refineries. That's what reform does. Reforms are always never very easy in the beginning. But if you give it a bit of time, I think that we're going to enjoy a lot of this thing. Now, even on the Naira front, you can begin to see the results already. $42 billion sitting in reserves. Nigeria's trade surpluses have never been this high. 5 trillion the last quarter, third quarter, second quarter, 6.5 trillion naira, first quarter, 6 trillion naira. And we're talking about an average of about $4 billion in each of those quarters. I think President Tinubu is actually working magic on the economy. So, and of course, if by the time even the revenue sector is kicking in, if you look at the president in his speech on the budget said, look, this year we're able to get about 14 trillion for the federal government only. 14 trillion. That means that if you gross it up, the FRS will release his numbers very soon. It's going to be anything between 25 trillion naira to 30 trillion naira, because the rest has to go to the states and the local government. Federal government gets about 52% and then adds whatever it gets from the government-owned enterprises. So a lot is looking up for Nigeria. I think the worst is over, and I think under President Tinubu, we're going to come out of the woods, and this country is going to do incredibly well. So look out for that.
Okay, well, talking about, President Tinubu's, magic wand so far with the reforms, some will argue that, the people have felt the pinch more, than the political class at this time. So how do we get that magic wand, to relieve some of the pressure, on disposable income right now with inflation still very high? And even though, we're seeing a PMS at 899 from the Dangote refinery, I'm sure Nigerians still want less.
Yeah. Okay, so the point becomes, at what point do retailers begin to reprice and reduce their prices because petroleum is going down? So we many times we don't see that, but it is also dependent on the people. the people themselves should fight that war. The FCCPC, Consumer Protection Agency, always moves out to ensure that the people are not being shortchanged too much from some of these retailers and producers and so on. So you're going to see that being priced in. For the 2025 budget, the projection of inflation is 15%. And it's beginning to look like it'll come down. So, but one of the key drivers of inflation in this country is food inflation. So we then look at what's going on in the agri sector. In 2024, from reports I've read, we actually had something like a bumper harvest in 2024. The floods weren't as devastating as they were in 2022. We were able to salvage quite a few things, about 474,000 tons of wheat was harvested, which were not there. Most of that wasn't there the year before. The rice sector, we achieved 100% of our projections, even though we still have about 1 to 2 million tons short from what we need locally. But we basically met almost everything with the local needs, and then we're going to think about export to the region. In almost everything, we're doing well. In cassava, we were able to do more than 30% of what we did last year with capacity for exports. So there's a lot going on. This will also begin to dovetail. But like I said earlier, we can't wait on the federal government alone to bring down our inflation. We can't wait on central bank alone. It may not be a matter for interest rate increases alone. The central bank also acknowledges that. We need to now, there's a behavioral aspect to it. People will usually want to take advantage where they see opportunities to take advantage. People, retailers and co, they will want to keep their prices up because, that means that a lot more money is coming into their pockets. In any economy, no matter the situation, some sectors are benefiting and doing incredibly well. And they will never speak up. Nigeria is a typical example. Sectors that are doing well will never say they are doing well. People that are making money will never say they are making money. It's when they don't make money, you hear, oh, this economy is such a bad economy. So again, there's money in this country. There's transactions going on. Right. There's opportunities going on. There's sectors that are doing well in this country. And however, the people must also stand up once in a while, take the fight back to those retailers and say, you know what? Things are looking better. Why aren't you reducing your prices?
So I guess
it's people are not taking advantage of
the same old
FCCPC alone cannot do it. People have to also step up.
So I guess it's the same old issue, profiteering coming up again. With those retailers you're talking about. But let's get to the budget now. I'd like to get your opinion, on this. According to budget, the government is currently running about 4 budgets. How do you see this? We see the 2023 budget that was extended to June 2024, then also extended to December 2024. 2023 supplementary budget extended to December 2024. Then we have the 2024 budget. Then we also have the 2024 revised, supplementary budget. So it seems like these are a lot of budgets, running at this time. Would that cause some kind of confusion?
In time, we're going to walk away from some of these, because I think this extension, some of them came about because, this government is less about 18 months in office, even perhaps less. The government was coming in 2023, and there needed to be a transition from one to the other, from one government to the other, and that's, the accounting reasons for that. This is what caused some of this extension. As the government stabilizes into the second year, third year, we're going to do away with some of those extensions, and of course the budget for a single year becomes the budget for a single year. I look forward to that. It's an accounting issue which can be, we're not spending money from 2 sources. There's only one source. There's only one consolidated revenue account. Only one pot from which everything that belongs to the federation gets shared out. And that's it. Even on however, mind you, some of these are the federal budget that you have mentioned. So it's just an accounting issue. I think as the government settles down properly, we would be able to have a singular budget. Supplementary budgets become necessary when they find out that, look, towards the end of the year, there are things that you need to do, or in the beginning of a year, there are things you need to do that you haven't provided for. So that's also a constitutional provision for a supplementary budget to come at that point in time. But I think that as the reforms on revenue kicks in, and the reforms on expenditure also kick in properly. Like I said before, reforms are not easy. They're not a walk in the park. It's not what you get by a snap of the finger. By the time those ones kick in, and we're getting good enough revenue for much more than what we've been getting before. If you look at the if you look at the budget for 2025 now, and the government expects about 35 trillion in terms of revenue, that's the federal government only. That means that the expectation is for federal revenue, as the case may be, to clock about 60 trillion. And we're talking about 12.5 trillion for last year. We're talking about almost 25 to 30 trillion for this year. We're talking about 60 trillion for next year. And by the time such quantum of revenue comes in, the country will begin to stabilize. And of course, we should also depend on or expect, what they call the advantages of purchasing power parity, because $1 in the US will probably do the work of $10. It's like $10 you bring it to Nigeria. What you need $1 to do in Nigeria, you need $10 to do that in the US. So what it means is that when we're focused on the naira, we can do a whole lot more with the naira. And that's valid by focusing on products that are manufactured, produced, innovated within Nigeria. We can do a whole lot more with the naira than with a focus on the dollar. So for the 7.9 trillion, this is a budget of hope. It's called a budget of restoration. We focus on security. We focus on prosperity.
Right.
And I think that's very remarkable. I think we're turning the corner, and tomorrow looks very, very good, even today.
Right. I'd really love to see, the names given to these budgets actually, materialize so that we can actually see it happen. We see that restoration, happening. But with a 13 trillion naira deficit proposed for 2025, what steps do you think should be taken now to address, high cost of, government borrowing, both locally and internationally? I know we've been celebrating having more local borrowing at this time, but that's also expensive.
Well, 13 trillion deficit, yes, well said. But first of all, the deficit you see in part of the budget, the idea is to fund it maybe partly from foreign, partly from local sources, with an eye to ensure that the government doesn't crowd out the private sector. But a lot of that deficit we intend to fund through PPPs, through a public-private partnership. You can look at some of the projects of the government, some of the major projects like the Lagos-Calabar is being funded, partly through PPP. So if you can ensure that the major projects are funded through the PPP, you rely less on foreign borrowing, which can have the exchange rate factor, or local borrowing, which can crowd out the private sector and the manufacturers, and then of course that reduces the pressure on interest rates in general. So, however, mind you, what I won't stand for is someone to say, oh, we need to be reducing our budget, we need to be balancing our budget. This is not the time. We're not in that kind of country that can begin to balance budgets as at now. We have a growing population, a healthy growth in population, about 2.3, 2.6% growth in population year on year. We were a budding economy, an economy with average age of 16.9 years, meaning that you have a lot of young people that need to be provided for in their education, their health, and what have you. You can see the provision. The government's providing about 2.5 trillion for education this year. About 4.1 trillion is going on infrastructure. We need to invest in infrastructure. 4.9 trillion going on defense, and on education about 3.5 trillion. So we need to continue to see how we can grow our budget, hence the need for deficits from time to time. Because we're a growing economy, we have a whole lot to achieve. And again, mind you, that our budget per capita in dollar terms is still rather low compared to most other countries in the world. We can do a whole lot better. Right. South Africa is budgeting $2,000 per person per year. Nigeria has no business budgeting $150. We should actually be supporting government to do a lot more, as government is trying to do. But mind you, like I said earlier, there's also the PPP factor, the purchasing power parity factor that the government intends to rely on. Right.
Dr. Fasua, you did mention defense spending, increasing it, for 2025. Looking at 2024, defense spending was, also quite, high, considering the issues. But we still got that report, showing that Nigeria spent about $2 trillion on ransom payment. So is it going to be the same type of spending, we saw on defense in 2024? Are we going to see something different, even though the amount of spend is rising? Will there be more, something else, a difference, in the way it's being spent, so we can see security improve?
First of all, when I think that the MBS, I'm not sure that report is correct, but we're going to hear from the MBS in days to come. One of the things I challenged when I saw the report yesterday was, is this number increasing or decreasing? So you have assumed that the number is increasing. The point is that was the first time we saw that kind of report. And I'm not sure whether it's a comparative report that other countries also do around. And I believe very strongly that the insecurity situation has improved a lot in this country compared to recent years. I mean, things like Boko Haram has been vanquished, so nobody should wake up that they are dead body for us anymore. Even the insecurity in Northwest is abating, in terms of the... recently we started hearing something called Lakurawa and Co. They sound like a joke. And the military forces have said, look, forget it. These guys are going to be taken out. Even incidences of kidnapping has reduced in this country. So you begin to wonder, the basis for that specificity and say, 2.something trillion was paid. Who reported it? How was it, collated and all of that? So I think we're going to be hoping that we get an update from the Bureau for Statistics on that, whether it's actually their report, but I've also heard that their website was hacked. So nobody knows what's going on. But again, there's one thing I saw in the statistics as well, that 7 out of 10 families reported to the police a murder in their family. I think that's preposterous. I think that's, perhaps, if you like, it's just simply incredible. I'm not sure 7 out of 10. That's quite a large number. The security, in fact, the truth is that if you actually do your research, find out that even in Africa, South Africa is considered to be the kidnapping capital of the world. And of course, in South Africa, a lot more of kidnapping goes on in South Africa than goes on in Nigeria, truth be told. So again, I think that it's back to you as a reporter, as a researcher, and to Nigerians as well. Don't just take data, like Benjamin Disraeli said. I was echoed by, this American author. Benjamin Disraeli also said, look, there are 3 types of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics. So what that means simply is that when you get a statistic, you also need to do what they call triangulation, to look at other sources and see whether you can corroborate those statistics yourself. Right. I personally think doing an analysis of different zones of this country, from the northwest to north central to northeast, southwest to south-south to southeast, that insecurity is reducing. You look at the situation in the southeast, it's reducing. It cannot perhaps be eradicated entirely. But this gentleman in Norway or Finland is in police custody as we speak. And people are beginning to step out. Most Mondays are free for people to come out. Once in a while these things happen. There's no country in the world, however, that doesn't have some security challenges. None. Is this the United States you talk about 40,000, 47,000 people get killed by gun violence in the U.S., with about 28,000 of those being people getting murdered and so on by different kind of gun violence. So, if you say whatever, Nigerians will want to all go to the U.S. today. But we kind of disparage our own. We're always looking for bad information about Nigeria, anything to put this country down and all of that. So I think we need to step beyond that and understand that this is our country. Nobody will sell this country but we. And so anybody that comes with consistent bad information about Nigeria, we go against him.
Of course, we need to sell our country, better. But regardless of the data, from the MBS about ransom payments, what are you expecting for defense spending in 2025? Would it be what we've seen in 2024? Can we see some improvements, in the spend, not just
hopefully,
an increase.
Absolutely. Hopefully, we look forward to an improvement. Like I said, my own opinion, my own analysis, I'm also a researcher. I'm also, used to be a writer, used to be a columnist and so on. From what I've seen, and like they say about journalists, they say journalists are historians in a hurry. Why does that happen? And I want to consider myself partly a journalist too, because I was a columnist for more than 17 years, writing every week and so on. So what that means is that we are always collating information in your articles, in your write-ups every week, or in your daily shows. Very few things will escape you. If someone mentions something that happened 10 years ago, you remember and say, no, I wrote about this, I spoke about this, I had a show about this, and so on. So again, I think that 2023 may not have been, 2024 may not have been a bad year regarding our security situation. I think it'll probably get better, most likely in 2025. Of course, we'll continue to appeal to those who are in charge of the security sector to ensure value for money in terms of our security spending so that we can continue to do better on that. But however, also security. The most important thing in security is actually the intelligence. And the intelligence comes from every member of the public. All of these guys disturbing us in Nigeria, they have family members. There are people who know what they're doing. Whether you're talking about in the north, the south, the west, the east, whatever the case may be, we know them. So the more information we avail, the better for all of us, because it affects our business. Sometimes innocent people get killed from the crossfires and some of these things and so on. So again, the issue is to say that Nigeria is ours to save. Nigeria is ours to build, and I think that we're the ones that are going to take our country to the nirvana that we've been hoping for.
Right,
and of course,
we're all
I said
hoping.
before, for those who disparage Nigeria, they're doing us a disservice. We have every right, no matter who they are, where they're from, to come against them and actually set the record straight. For example, there's this issue of a guy who was jailed for life for stealing a fowl. But what people did not say was that the guy was actually part of an armed robbery group. Now we're getting the information, but that goes far, and people begin to curse Nigeria. Again, if you curse Nigeria, a country that you benefited from, the truth is that you're cursing yourself.
All right, we all pray for a better Nigeria going forward and even beyond, 2025. But thank you so much. It was great having your perspective, Dr. Tope, Fasua, Economic Affairs Advisor to the President. Thank you again, and compliments of the season.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.